European Union foreign ministers have discussed ways to help encourage a political solution to the conflict in Syria, as well as increase humanitarian assistance and provide support to the opposition. During their talks in Brussels, the ministers were updated on diplomatic developments by the UN and Arab League Special Representative Lakhdar Brahimi.
We discussed at length the indispensable political solution and what everybody needs to do to make that possible. And I think that the European Union has a role to play, along with other important members of the international community. And they told me that they will do their very best to play their role and discuss with others what everybody should know.
The EU is the largest humanitarian donor for the Syrian crisis, in which some 70,000 people have been killed and more than 1 million forced from their homes. On the EU's southern neighbourhood, the ministers discussed border security in Libya, as the EU prepares to send this month the first members of a mission to help the country manage its land, sea and air frontiers. Recent events in Tunisia next door were also raised, given the recent resignation of the Prime Minister there and the assassination of an opposition leader. The elections in Egypt and a possible EU observation mission was on the agenda too. Russia was a main topic for debate ahead of the EU summit late this week. The ministers looked at Russia's domestic politics, its foreign policy and bilateral relations with the EU in an effort to develop this partnership in a more comprehensive way. Trade between the two is growing, but there is potential to develop it more, and talks on easing visa requirements are progressing. However, the ministers voiced concerns about the poor state of the rule of law in Russia and harassment of the media and human rights defenders. The ministers also reviewed relations with Japan to pave the way for an EU-Japan summit late this month, which will launch negotiations on a free trade agreement and a framework accord for broader EU-Japan relations.
There was complete unanimity in going forward in our relationship with Japan, and I very much agree with all the foreign ministers' view that this is of enormous importance to the European Union. Japan has been a long-term partner. It's 20 years, I think, since we started having summits with Japan, and they're highly valued, and that's an important message.
This Foreign Affairs Council took place on the second anniversary of the massive tsunami in Japan. The EU provided emergency relief and continues to help the country rebuild.